It's hard to even know where to begin, but I feel like I need to get this off my chest and maybe, just maybe, find some clarity. I'm sorry if this comes across as a ramble, there's just so much to unpack. Hopefully, you guys could guide me in the right direction because I'm at a loss. I'm 30 years old, and I've been married to the love of my life, Jake, who's 34, for 8 incredible years. We have 2 wonderful children, a 6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. Life was pretty close to perfect. We had a cozy home, a stable routine, and a deep connection that I thought was unshakable. Our days were filled with the usual ups and downs of family life, but overall, I couldn't have been happier. But everything changed 2 years ago, thanks to my older sister, Lily. Lily is also 34, and while our lives started out similarly, they've taken drastically different paths. Lily's experience with relationships has been, to put it mildly, extremely rocky. Until recently, she had been single for quite a while, and there's a very solid reason behind that. As much as it pains me to say it, Lily is a bit of a red flag when it comes to relationships. Her behavior can only be described as that of a neurotic narcissist. She has a habit of sabotaging her relationships, often pushing people away with her erratic and manipulative tendencies. Lily's relationships always seem to start off well enough, but they sadly, never last. She's got this way of getting too intense, too quickly, and then things start to unravel. I've seen it happen time and time again. She'll meet someone, they'll start dating, and then she'll start picking fights over the smallest things, or she'll become so possessive that the guy feels suffocated. Before long, it's over, and she's left wondering why she can't find someone who'll stick around. It's hard to watch, especially because Lily often takes her frustrations out on me. She'd come over to my place, venting about how she couldn't find a man like Jake, and it was clear that there was a lot of resentment there. She'd say things like, "Even you found a man, why can't I find someone like Jake?" I tried not to take offense to that because I knew she was in a bad place, but it was hard not to feel like her words were a dig at me. Despite everything, I still love my sister. I've always hoped that she would find the man of her dreams and finally be happy. I even tried to set her up with a friend of Jake's once, thinking they might be a good match. But Lily's strange and off-putting behavior quickly put an end to that idea. She was so intense and controlling that I realized it wasn't worth risking my friendship over her. Yet, despite all of this, I continued to hope that Lily would eventually find happiness. Unfortunately, it became very clear that Lily didn't feel the same way about me. 2 years ago, Jake and I were celebrating our 6th wedding anniversary with a big family barbecue at our parents' house. It had been a while since the whole family had gathered to do something, so everyone was having the time of their lives. Our children were playing with their cousins, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy. It was one of those rare moments where everything felt perfect, and I was surrounded by the people I loved most. As the evening wore on, Lily pulled me aside. At first, I thought she was going to give me a heartfelt anniversary wish. She congratulated me, and I thanked her, feeling a bit surprised by her genuine tone. I asked her what she'd been up to lately, knowing that she had a new boyfriend, so I inquired about that as well. But instead of the casual chat I was expecting, Lily's demeanor changed. She looked at me with a strange intensity, and the next words out of her mouth caught me completely off guard. She claimed that after Jake and I got married, they went behind my back and had an affair for a while. At first, I thought it was some twisted joke and even laughed, but no. Lily was dead serious. She said that after the wedding, Jake started texting her, and what began as innocent getting to know you messages soon turned into deep emotional talks. According to Lily, Jake confided in her that he and I were constantly fighting and arguing over little things. She claimed that he would ask if they could meet, and that's when the affair supposedly began. Her words left me feeling nauseous. The idea of Jake, who had always been devoted to me and our family, being unfaithful was something I couldn't even fathom. Lily said that she had kept this a secret this whole time but could not pretend anymore. But the way she presented it, so calmly and confidently, shook me to my core even more than the actual news. For a second, I started thinking of all the scenarios. Did Jake really cheat on me? That too with my own sister. And now, are we supposed to get separated? What about the kids? It took me a minute to gather my thoughts, but then I asked Lily if she had some proof, so that Jake could not get away with lying. And that's where she faltered. Lily said that she definitely had a bunch of evidence, but as her sister, I should trust her with or without that. That was when it hit me. Lily was lying. She could fool mom and dad, but I had observed her for years and I could easily tell by now when she was being dishonest. When she realized that I might be onto her, she started crying. Then came her lecture with stuff like, "I cannot believe you don't trust me and I told you for your own good." Lily went ahead and told our parents the same story. Very soon, all of our friends and family circled us and Lily started screaming at Jake about how he cheated on me with her, and even though she didn't want to be part of anything, he blackmailed her. My husband was confused as well. Just like me, he also thought at first that this was some sort of unfunny joke, but when Lily started screaming like a maniac in front of everybody, things became pretty serious. I hoped my parents would help me in doing the damage control. After all, even if Lily's story was true, I would have been the heartbroken one. But to my disbelief, my parents sided with Lily without even caring about our surroundings. Dad started to scream at Jake, saying that he had played with Lily's feelings. I felt abandoned. My own sister was telling me that she had an affair with my husband of 6 years. Even though I knew that it wasn't true, no wife likes to hear this type of stuff. Moreover, had her story been true, my father cared more about Lily's feelings than about me, a wife and mother, who would have lost her husband. When we returned home that day, Jake discussed everything with me. I trusted my husband and I knew he wouldn't betray me like this. Before anybody thinks I'm gullible, let me tell you, Lily has a history of lying. She has sabotaged several of her relationships in the past over petty lies. In fact, the reason why Jake's friend broke up with her was because she would randomly accuse him of cheating on her. She would plant her own stuff at different places in the apartment and then question him if he had brought other girls to his place and then have a screaming match. And when finally, he was exhausted, she would tell him that it was just a test. The incident with us just proved this was a pattern for Lily. So, I chose to believe my husband. What followed were the worst days of my life. My parents refused to hear our side of the story, choosing instead to believe Lily's version without any evidence. Our once close-knit family was shattered. Jake and I found ourselves isolated, and the atmosphere during family gatherings became unbearable. My parents treated me with cold suspicion, and Jake was outright ignored. Lily, on the other hand, seemed to thrive on the chaos she had created. She played the victim, soaking up the attention and sympathy from everyone around her. It was as if she enjoyed seeing the destruction she had caused in my life, and the more I tried to defend myself and Jake, the more she twisted the narrative to make us look like villains. I tried to reach out to my parents, to explain that there was no proof of Lily's claims, but it was no use. They had made up their minds, and their loyalty to Lily was unwavering. Mom even accused me of being in denial, of choosing Jake over my own sister, and it broke my heart. I couldn't understand how they could turn their backs on me so easily, how they could believe Lily's lies without question. Eventually, the tension reached a breaking point. Jake and I made the painful decision to distance ourselves from my family for the sake of our mental health and our children's well-being. It was an incredibly difficult choice, but we couldn't continue living under the shadow of such a hurtful lie. After a while, this became our new normal. As I said, it was hard but not impossible. I accepted the fact that I did not need my parents' approval about everything in my life. And if they want to support Lily's lie, then be that as it may. But just when I thought the drama was finally behind us, something happened that stirred everything up again. Out of the blue, I came across a post on Facebook. And guess what? Lily got engaged. She had posted a series of pictures with her new fiancé, a man named Mark, along with a long, sentimental caption about how she had met the love of her life. She went on to describe how Mark had come into her life during what she claimed was the hardest time she had ever faced, a time of pain and betrayal. Ironic, huh? Reading those words made my stomach churn. The hypocrisy was astounding. Lily had painted herself as a victim, using the very lies she had told to garner sympathy and admiration from our extended family and friends. As I scrolled through the comments, I saw that many of our relatives, who had mostly sided with her during the fallout, were congratulating her and offering their support. Some even made snarky, passive-aggressive remarks that were clearly aimed at me, saying things like, "Good for you for moving past that toxicity, you don't need that in your life." It was infuriating. These people had no idea what really happened, yet they were quick to applaud Lily for her supposed strength and resilience. I felt a familiar sense of betrayal, not just from Lily, but from the entire family that had chosen to believe her lies without question. It was as if they had completely erased me from their lives, all while continuing to support someone who had caused nothing but pain and destruction. But what bothered me even more was the fact that Lily was now engaged to a man who had no idea about the kind of person she really was. I couldn't help but feel sorry for Mark, knowing that he was being manipulated by the same lies that had torn my family apart. I wondered if Lily had ever told him the truth about what she had done, or if she had continued to spin her web of deceit to ensnare him as well. At first, I was tempted to reach out to Mark and warn him, to tell him about the kind of person Lily really was. But I quickly realized that it wasn't my place to interfere in their relationship. Mark would have to learn the truth on his own, just as I had. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that came with knowing Lily was once again manipulating those around her for her own benefit. In the days that followed, I tried to push the news of Lily's engagement out of my mind. But it wasn't easy. Suddenly, I started to notice a string of missed calls from an unknown number. At first, I thought it was just spam, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But the calls kept coming. I was busy with work and the kids, so I didn't have time to pick up. Finally, during a break at work, I decided to answer. What greeted me on the other end of the line was a screaming Lily. She didn't hold back, hurling every insult and slur she could think of at me. It was like a flood of anger and rage, completely unfiltered and unrestrained. I tried to get a word in, to ask her what was going on, but she wouldn't let me speak. It was only after what felt like an eternity of listening to her tirade that I managed to get her to pause long enough to ask what had happened and why was she so angry. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then she screamed, "How could I pretend to be innocent after everything I had done?" Before I could respond, she hung up. I was left in a daze, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My mind was racing with possibilities, but nothing made any sense. What could I have possibly done to make Lily this furious? I had stayed out of her life, given her the space she clearly wanted, and had done nothing to provoke her. There was only one person I could think of who might have some insight into this situation: my Uncle Tom. He was one of the few family members I was still in touch with, and he had always been a voice of reason in the middle of all the chaos. I called him, hoping that he could shed some light on what was going on. The only person I could think to call was my uncle, the one family member who hadn't turned his back on me during the entire ordeal. He had always been a voice of reason, someone I could rely on for the truth. When I explained what had just happened, he told me what Lily had conveniently left out. Apparently, Mark, her fiancé, had called off the engagement. The reason? He had uncovered the so-called affair between Lily and Jake through the family gossip. Mark, being the decent guy he was, had been doing some digging into a conflict he had noticed between Lily and me. When he learned about the affair, he was understandably furious. The problem was, he didn't know it was all a lie, a fabricated story Lily made up to gain attention and sympathy. Things took an even more dramatic turn shortly before the engagement was called off. Mark, Lily's fiancé, had been sensing that something was off in their relationship. Lily's erratic behavior had raised some red flags for him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Driven by his suspicions, Mark decided to check Lily's phone. What he discovered was a shock to everyone. Lily had been cheating on him. She had been meeting up with this guy she met on a dating app, and let's just say the conversations weren't just friendly banter. Mark, who was well off and seemingly perfect in Lily's eyes, was someone she wasn't willing to lose. Lily had no choice but to come clean. She confessed to Mark that there was no affair with Jake, that it was all a story she had made up. But instead of salvaging her relationship, her confession backfired. She did not deny the chats with the guy on the dating app. Mark was horrified, of course, by the affair, but also by the lie. The lengths Lily had gone to in order to maintain the act. It painted Lily in an even darker light, and Mark wanted nothing to do with her after that. In the aftermath of Mark calling off the engagement, Lily's life began to unravel. Her lies were now public knowledge, and the very people who had once supported her started to distance themselves. The relatives who had been so quick to believe her story about Jake and me now questioned everything. Their snarky comments and supportive messages vanished as they realized the depth of Lily's deception. My parents, who had so easily taken her side 2 years ago, were left reeling from the truth. They had been manipulated, just like everyone else, and now they had to face the consequences of their blind faith in Lily's lies. Now all of my family is trying to reconcile with me and my husband. Even after everything that's happened, there's a part of me that feels guilty. Maybe it's because, in my anger and hurt, I haven't spoken to Lily or my parents since the engagement was called off. I didn't reach out to see how Lily was doing after Mark left her. She's my sister, and despite everything, I still feel some responsibility for her well-being. I know she brought this on herself, but it's hard to shake the feeling that I should have done more, even if just to check in. Another part of me feels guilty for keeping my children away from their grandparents. They don't know the full story, of course, but they've started asking questions about why we don't visit Grandma and Grandpa anymore. They miss them, and it breaks my heart to see them so confused. But how can I expose them to people who sided with a lie that nearly destroyed our family? So, I'm left wondering, Ida, for cutting my family off and not reaching out to Lily, even after her engagement fell apart? Should I have done more to mend the broken relationships, or am I justified in keeping my distance to protect myself and my family? Update 1. Hi guys, how are you? It's been a while since the whole ordeal with Lily and Mark, and while things have mostly returned to normal, there's still some tension that I can't seem to shake. After the truth came out and Lily's engagement was called off, I thought we'd finally be able to move on. But now, it seems like everyone in my family is trying to reach out to us as if they suddenly realized the gravity of what they believed and the damage it caused. My aunts and cousins, who were quick to take Lily's side when she accused Jake of cheating, have started calling and texting me regularly. They're all expressing their regret for doubting Jake and me, saying things like we should have known better or we never should have believed it without hearing your side. Part of me wants to believe their sincerity, but another part of me feels like it's too little, too late. Where were they when we needed their support? My parents, of course, have been the most persistent. They've been calling and leaving voicemails almost every day, and it's clear they're desperate to reconcile. They've even shown up at our house a couple of times unannounced, but Jake and I didn't answer the door. I finally picked up my mom's call once, thinking maybe I was ready to hear her out. But the first thing she said was how much she missed her grandchildren and how she couldn't wait to see them again. That really hit a nerve. The fact that her primary concern was seeing our kids, rather than acknowledging the pain Jake and I went through because of her blind belief in Lily's lies, angered me. It felt like she was more interested in getting back what she lost, the relationship with our children, than truly making amends for the hurt they caused. The motive to reach out should have been an apology, a genuine acknowledgement of the harm they did to our family, especially to Jake, who had been dragged through the mud by their accusations. In the meantime, I received a message from Mark, Lily's ex-fiancé, through Instagram. I was a bit surprised to hear from him, but we ended up having a nice chat. Mark was incredibly apologetic about everything that happened, expressing his regret for not speaking up sooner when Lily made her accusations. He told me that he had believed something was off but didn't want to make waves or hurt anyone more than necessary. It was clear that breaking things off with Lily had hit him hard, too. He mentioned that he had genuinely cared for her and had hoped their relationship would work out, but how could he spend his life with someone who was just straight up a con woman? I assured Mark that he did the right thing by breaking off the engagement and that he would eventually meet someone better who wouldn't put him through what Lily did. I could tell he was still processing everything, and I sympathized with him. After all, he was another victim of Lily's manipulations. Interestingly, while my family has been trying to reconnect with us, Lily has gone completely MIA. After the big reveal at the engagement party, she seemed to dig herself into an even deeper hole. She tried to throw out more wild accusations, claiming that I had cheated on Jake and that he had always secretly wanted her instead. But honestly, by that point, no one was listening. It was as if everyone had finally seen through her lies and manipulations. I wasn't even surprised by the things she said anymore. Instead, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was upset and sad for Lily because it was clear that she needed some serious help. No sane person would continue down this path of self-destruction. On the other hand, I felt a sense of relief, that my husband was being seen as a cheater and I as a stupid woman. Despite the guilt and sorrow I feel for my sister, I know that the best thing for my family right now is to keep our distance from all this toxic drama. We've been through enough, and I need to focus on protecting my husband, my children, and myself from further harm. I'm grateful for the clarity that's come out of all this, even if it's been incredibly painful to get here. I also want to thank everyone who took the time to read my story and offer their support and suggestions. It's been a difficult journey, but the kindness and understanding I've received from strangers has made it a little easier to bear. I am grateful to you all for helping me see things more clearly and for giving me the strength to do what's best for my family. Update 2. Hi everyone. The past week has been incredibly rocky, so my family and I decided to take a much-needed mini vacation. It was a good way to clear our minds and focus on each other after everything that's happened. I also took some time to go through all of your comments on my previous posts, and I just want to say thank you. Your insights and support have really given me a better perspective on this whole situation. One thing that really stood out to me was the number of comments about Lily's strange obsession with my husband, Jake. Now that you all have pointed it out, I can see that there were always signs, but I just didn't connect the dots back then. When Jake and I first started dating, Lily had a lot to say about it, more than I realized at the time. She would always call him smart and dashing, which seemed like harmless compliments, but they were often followed by comments that now feel a bit off, like how I managed to get him or how he was so out of my league. I shrugged it off as her usual teasing, but looking back, there might have been more to it. Anyway, moving forward, I have to mention that my parents have not stopped trying to contact us. They've given us hundreds of calls and texts, and while I'm still angry about what happened, I've decided to let them visit us. I know their primary motive is to see the kids, and I've come to terms with that. After everything, I've realized that I won't deprive my children of their grandparents, even if I'm not ready to fully reconcile with them myself. The truth is, while my parents may not have been the best at supporting me, they've always been loving grandparents, and my kids adore them. The visit isn't going to be easy, and I'm still not sure how I'll handle seeing them face to face after all that's happened. But for the sake of my children, I'm willing to give it a try. I'll make sure to set boundaries and protect my own mental health, but I can't deny the bond they share with their grandparents. Hopefully, this visit will provide some clarity on how to move forward from here. Thank you again for all your support and advice. I'll keep you posted on how things go. Update 3. Hello people, hope you're doing better. I wanted to give you all an update on how things have been since my last post. My parents did end up visiting us, and while I was nervous about how it would go, I have to say it was better than I expected. Things were awkward at first, as I had anticipated, but my kids quickly broke the ice. They were beyond happy to see their grandparents again, and their excitement helped to lift the tension in the room. It was clear they had missed them just as much as my parents had missed them. As we settled in, the kids, in their innocent way, asked where Aunt Lily was. It was a question I knew would come up eventually, and it brought a moment of uncomfortable silence. We all kind of avoided the topic at the time, trying to keep the mood light. But later, when the kids were busy, I decided to ask my parents directly where she was. They told me that Lily was back at their place after disappearing for a while and that she wanted to apologize to me. I found it hard to take that seriously, though. After everything she's done, an apology felt somewhat meaningless. Moreover, Mark, her fiancé, was the one who deserved the biggest apology, after everything she had put him through. I suggested that instead of wasting time on apologizing, they should consider getting her into therapy. The way she acted lying so blatantly and destructively wasn't just a simple mistake. She behaved like a pathological liar, and at times, it seemed she was inches away from being considered a psychopath. Some might say, she is one. If there's any chance of her recovering from this situation, professional help is essential. Interestingly, throughout this whole ordeal, Jake and Mark have fostered a surprising friendship. They started hanging out and discovered that they shared a lot of similar interests. Jake keeps Mark updated about what's happening with us, and it's been nice to see them both support each other in different ways. Mark, being the mature guy that he is, has started to move forward with his life. He didn't deserve what he went through, but that's all we can do as humans: move on and try to find peace. All in all, I think we're on a path towards some kind of resolution. Things won't ever be the same, but I'm a tiny bit optimistic that they can get better. If the universe works in our favor, we might not return to the way things were, but we could reach a place that's good enough, a place where we can rebuild some trust and move forward without the weight of the past holding us back. We've learned valuable lessons about the importance of open communication, the dangers of jumping to conclusions, and the power of forgiveness, both giving and receiving it. While we're not fully healed yet, we feel we're on the right path. Thank you again, Reddit, for your support and advice throughout this challenging time. Your perspectives have been invaluable in helping us navigate this complex situation. We'll continue to take things one day at a time, prioritizing our mental health and the well-being of our children as we move forward.